All right, we are in the midst of the fifth chapter, Hilchos Talmud Torah, and let's see where we left off. Halacha Beis, right? We started at the topic, the fifth chapter. We said that the theme of this is what we called Mora Rabo, right? Kavod Rav, right? The Rambam equates Kibud Av Ha'em to Kibud of Rav, right? Honoring and being fearful of your rebbe. So what is it? So we spoke about how you shouldn't disagree with him, shouldn't contradict him, shouldn't fight with him. That's what we learned in the first halacha. In the second halacha, it says Ezehu cholak al rabo. So how would you define someone who is going against your rebbe? Meaning, what are you doing? He taught you. So what are you doing to show that you're disputing him? Okay? Assuming that your rebbe is still alive, so basically you set up shop, okay, in the area where he is, and you basically usurp his role. You take over and teach without the rebbe's permission. Now it's ironic because if this were to happen today, most teachers, I would assume, would be happy, right? And that's kind of goes through the whole theme of this chapter, which we can't really understand, what it means, because times are so different today. It used to be very serious, and as we're going to see, all these halachos, because of the Masorah, like Pirkei Avos, Moshe to Yoshua, Yeshua to Canaan, and this one to that one, and went over and over throughout the generations. Today, that concept is, I don't want to call it, dead, but for the most part, we don't appreciate the Masorah and the concept of one person ordaining the next person and the next person and the next person. And, you read all these Gemaras, like the Gemara in the beginning of Sanhedrin, I think, Daf Yadalit or so, where it talked about Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava he basically died over this. He gave smicha, and he actually gave up his life. And we don't understand what it means to give up your life to being able to give smicha to someone. But that fits into this whole motif of all of these strict rules that basically, delegate how to give over the tradition and what are the rules. And it's very, very, very complicated. That's why you're just looking at this, you're like, every teacher wishes that his student would be on that level. But, unfortunately, we don't have all these rules anymore. But back then, it showed basically a chutzpah. Here you are in your Rebbe's shtella. How do you say that in English? In your Rebbe's, position and his authority, and you're basically setting up shop, and you become the new Rebbe, and your Rebbe is still there. It's like a busha to him. So that's what the Rambam is talking about. V'afal pi sherabba b'din acheres. Even if the Rebbe isn't even there, right? So he's in a different place, right? He's in a different city. You still can't just, be the new Rebbe. That's not how it works. Ooh, this is a big no-no. We learned from Nadav and Avihu, one of the 6 or 7 reasons the Gemara brings down when Nadav and Avihu died was that they were mora halacha in front of their parents, in front of Aaron, right, in front of their father. Right, the Gemara in Eruvin talks about that they paskin the halacha regarding a korban, regarding a fire that has to consume the korban. That even though the fire comes from heaven, you have to light it by itself. You still have to light it. And that halacha, they were actually more bifnei rabo. And it's Rambam ends off by saying, "V'chol amor halacha bifnei rabo chayiv misa." Right? If you say over a halacha with your rebbe in front of you to someone else, that's the ultimate chutzpah, and you are chayiv misa. We know that you're not chayiv misa b'dei adam, you're chayiv misa b'dei shamayim. Okay, number 3. So now we're going to further talk about this concept. Haya beino ben rabo shnei masar mil. All right, so me and my rebbe are separated by 12 mil. That's a very, very long distance. The shalo adam dvar halacha mutar lahashiv. And someone asked me a question. Okay, I'm permitted to answer. Okay. What if someone asks me a question regarding, am I allowed to eat this or not? And the Rebbe is there. So that's not called paskening a halacha, because what you're doing is what they say, you're playing it safe. Meaning, just say, no, you can't eat it. So that's not really more a halacha. That's more saying, you know what, I don't really know. All things being equal, I'd rather this person not eat this. Okay, so the example the Rambam gives, I see someone committing a sin who presumably didn't know, or he did know and he's just a rasha. It's incumbent, right? We had this about giving tochacha, so it's incumbent on everyone to say, hey, you can't do this. Even if my Rebbe is next to me, that's not called mora halacha bifnei rabo. That's just called, I'm saving this person's soul. So that's not really a problem. Right? Even though the Rebbe didn't give the person reshus to say anything. Kavod harav is a wonderful, wonderful concept, but there's only one thing that trumps it, and that is chilul Hashem. So if a person is about to commit an act of chilul Hashem, and I have the power to stop it, and the only reason why I would think twice is because my Rebbe is present, and I say, whoa, well, I know what the Rambam says about pasking in front of my Rebbe, so we say no. Chilul Hashem trumps everything, and if your Rebbe, for whatever reason, is not helping the situation, then you are allowed to tell this person, hey, don't eat this. You can't do that. Stop doing what you're doing. Everything we're saying over here is, if something just happens like, by the way, but what if I step up shop, right? And you say, okay, I'm going to be the go-to guy to give, right, to separate people from sinning. Right? I'm going to be that person. So that's not good. Even if my Rebbe is in a different continent, okay, I can't do it. What we said before was, if something happens once in a while, incidentally, I'm walking on the street with my Rebbe and I see someone about to eat something not kosher, then I could step up. But if I do this that's haphazard. But if I do it on a permanent basis, that's not good. Even if the Rebbe is 10,000 miles away, whoa. If you really want to do that, you got to wait until your Rebbe dies. Or he tells you that it's okay. And by the way, just because your Rebbe dies doesn't mean that you are now the authority. No, you have to go through the proper rabbinical schooling. Right? You have to go to smicha school. Okay. We'll do number 4. Regarding Talmidim who haven't earned it yet, right? And they just took the they just did the online course for a month, and they didn't sit through years of smicha school, right? And they just took a shortcut, and they haven't earned it yet, and they start paskening. Whoa, that is bad. Rambam says you're a Russia and a Shota and a Gas Ruach. Those are bad things. Evil, stupid, and haughty. Valav Nemar, and the pasuk says, on you from Mishlei ki rabim chalalim hipila. Right? You threw down many corpses. Pretty bad. V'chen chacham shegia lahora ve'enu more. How about the opposite? You have a chacham that went to YU, Chovevei, whatever, pick your controversial school, and he did the time, and he's ready to give hurrah, and all of a sudden, ve'enu mora, and he gets stage fright, and he decides not to do it. Hari's a moan at Torah, so he is preventing Torah, v'nosen michsholos lifnei ivrim. Whoa, and he's over what we call lifnei iver, right? Literally, he's placing stumbling blocks before the blind. Why? Because he has an opportunity to direct people on how to act, and he's letting people just act in the wrong way. Ve'alav Nemar, and that pasuk in Mishlei, from the same pasuk as we quoted before, 7th parak of Mishlei, Va'atzumim kol haru geha, right? How prodigious are those she slew. Ooh, bad. Elu talmidim aktarim shalhir b'Torah karoy. These are the talmidim, the young talmidim, shalohir b'Torah, that they didn't spread Torah. V'hem mevakshon liskadal b'fnei am ha'aretz u'bein anashim iram v'kosim diyoshim b'rosh ladin. Right? These are people who haven't gathered a lot of Torah knowledge, but they want to impress people by people thinking, right? So what they do is the Rambam says, they want to be great. They want to sit at the dais, ladinu lahoris b'Yisrael. Right? They want to pretend that they know what they're doing. But really, the Rambam says, "Hen hamarbim hamachlokes," they cause machlokes, which is counterproductive. The hen hamachrivin as ha'olam, they destroy the world, not good. Umachabin ner shel Torah, and they extinguish the light of Torah. V'hamachablim keren Hashem tzvos, and they blow up the vineyard of God. Wow, so that's pretty bad on people who. People who aren't educated, and they go and they want to start paskening shilas and looking like they know what they're talking about, but meanwhile they're all ignorant. And the Rambam says they cause machlokes. We'll talk maybe one day on how machlokes started. There's actually many books written on that. This concept of we have machlokes, where did that all come from? Anyways, okay, Aleim Amar Shlomo b'chachmaso, and Shlomo refers to this in his book Shir HaShirim. Now, Shir HaShirim is a long Megillah that we don't take literally. So when we quote a pasuk, the pasuk does not mean what you think it means. Here the pasuk says, "Echazulanu shuolim k'tanim achablim kramim," right? So literally, it means taking foxes that destroy the vineyard. So we know that obviously Shir Shirim is a allegory, and this is referring to blooming vineyards that are destroyed by, remember what the Rambam just said, that people who aren't ready to paskin, they blow up the world and they are machabel kerem Hashem, right? So too, a fox can destroy a vineyard. So too, these Talmidei Chachamim are destroying the vineyard of God. Whoa. Okay, we will stop here.